Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Making Your Mark podcast. My name is Mark Bundang. I'm your host. Today we have a very, very special guest, someone that I've known for quite a bit of time and I've just caught up with recently. She's different than some of the other guests that I have, which are more in the realm of the business industry or other industries. So I'm very excited to explore a little bit of her backstory and stuff like that. So my special guest is Kim Handysides. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Mark. How you doing? Nice to see you.
Thank you. It's great to see you. I really, really glad that you accepted the invitation to be a guest on this podcast.
100%.
I know you've told me a little bit about what's happened to you ever since. Just for a bit of a background for the audience. I know you from my time in a company where we did e-learning together, right? So we did e-learning projects. I was a project manager there, and you you were the artist, the voiceover
I was the
artist.
voiceover artist. Yeah, exactly. That's been my primary position for over 30 years now. And I love it. It's great.
Oh, if anything, that quality that I saw, that magic that I saw in the studio back in that, and I don't want to say how long that was because that's a long time ago.
It's a while. Yeah.
It's been a while.
A young person's lifetime ago.
Yeah, exactly. I've had like three lives since then. But yeah, if it's anything like that quality that I saw, like it's you really are a master of it. So what I want to do is ask you maybe where did you make your mark? What for the audience? What is a bit of your background?
I'm a voiceover artist. That's not what I started out to be. When I was young, I was trying to decide, do I go into the sciences, which is really interesting because that's sort of where we met at the confluence of my two loves, which happened to be science, biology, specifically human biology. I wanted to be a Shakespearean actress. Yeah. So I ended up going the art route, but I always had a passion for life sciences as well. And that's just grown into a whole bunch of other different areas. But I studied theater, communication studies. I had a combined degree and then went into working in television and radio. I was a DJ. I was a weather woman. I was a news reporter. I was a co-host of a TV show. I did film. I did theater. And when we met, I had been solidly a voiceover actor for a lot of years. And now, at this stage of my career, I also coach other voiceover actors how to become better. I'm a producer of projects for directly for clients or for other voiceover actors to make their portfolios or demos, so to speak. And yeah, few other things, but that's chiefly what I'm doing. And so that's sort of like, I guess you'd say, my mark in the world. I'm speaking at a conference in March this coming year, where there's over 1,000 in attendance, and I'm going to be talking about the art of performance for voiceover actors. But the thing is, it's really cool is that it's also a transferable skills for just about anybody who has to do any kind of presentation. So I'm very excited about that, how to tell better stories, connect with people who aren't necessarily there in front of you. Yeah.
Well, that is such a skill and an art at the same time. Storytelling is probably one of the few things I think that's unique to us, for each individual. So I'm a very big proponent, and this is why the Making Your Mark podcast actually exists. It's because I wanted to be able to tell or help other people tell their story.
Beautiful.
So I by the way, I do want to. I know you're probably too humble for this, but I'm going to say that you are a winner of the coveted Sovas Award, which is what is that exactly?
Okay, so it's the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences, and it's generally done in Los Angeles every year. It's sort of like the Academy Awards for the voiceover industry. And yes, I've won. I've been nominated several times, and I've actually won an award there as well. Best voiceover for education and business, which is kind of like one of the main areas that I love to work in.
It's great to be in the realm of the master here. So,
Okay,
and,
thank you.
okay, too much, too much. Okay, so I I I see a number here. So, just for the benefit of the audience, I'm reading some notes that we've kind of worked together with. Voiced over 30,000 productions.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
how. What span of time is that?
Okay, so I'm going to say that that's over like my total, um, the total time that I've been a voiceover actor professionally has been probably 40 years now. I started so young.
Mhm. If I
um,
may say so, it doesn't look like it.
Thank you.
That you did this for 40 years.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so that's yeah, 30,000 projects over 40 years. The speed, I mean, at the beginning, it was just, maybe one every couple of weeks, one a month. Now it's several a day. So it's great. And these projects range from commercials to audiobooks to e-learning, online training to corporate narrations to telephone answering services to IMAX film narrations, all kinds of the realm, the
So
realm, and even
you have a diversified
yeah.
experience for sure over the last 40 years. I do want to ask you, because you've been doing this for a long time, is there, like, do you know that book? I got it from this book, The 10,000 Hours. It's from Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell.
Love
Do,
Malcolm Gladwell.
yeah.
I haven't read that one, but I know the concept. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, do you find that was true for your career? I mean, you've done it for the first 10,000 hours, and then all of a sudden you see things kind of happening for you.
100%. Absolutely. My early professional career, I was working as a radio DJ. I worked in TV. I would often do the job outside of the hours. So I would, have my paid career, but then I would also go into the studio every night and play radio, play TV. I would work at the craft, play commercial, just work at the craft in all my spare time because I just wanted to get better and better and better. And very quickly after I put my 10,000 hours in, I became a union employee, a union actor, should we say, and started to get some really nice gigs. In fact, I think I was like 28 years old. I had my first con nominated for the Golden Palm award winning, not award winning film, award nominated film. But that was, so that was pretty cool.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I can't stress it enough because, especially, and I don't, I hope I'm not saying something controversial here, but in the emergence of social media and how you can be an influencer and a YouTube star and all of that, there's a temptation to believe that it's instant. Like it's like your success is instant, your skill building is instant, but there's so many hours
Yeah.
outside of that camera, outside of that final product that went into it, and it's not just the production of that particular video; it's all the history, all of
Oh,
the skills.
100%. Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because when I'm working with people, coaching people who want to enter the industry, very often, people will say, you know, people tell me I have a really nice voice, so I thought I'd try voiceover. And it's like, well, that's 5% of what this is about. The other 95% of what this is about is taking other people's words and then making them sound as if they're your own, as if, in the alchemy of what we're experiencing right now, the, thought, word retrieval, emotion, intention, trying to get that message across to you so it sinks in your brain. All of that's happening simultaneously as we communicate, correct? But right now they're my words. If I was taking a script and reading somebody else's words, there's all kinds of other things that have to happen, and some of them are things that you can learn. Well, actually, all of them are things that you can learn, but it takes a lot of practice.
Oh yeah, yeah. Are you well traveled too, or do
Yeah,
you
pretty much. Like,
pretty
there's
much
places I still want to go, but yeah.
you are? Eh? Yeah, because I think one of the things that you're mentioning is, and maybe this is my interpretation. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But kind of have to be in, like, your brain has to kind of, when you're voicing over someone else's words, something that's on a piece of paper, you have to put yourself in that place. You have to put yourself in that head.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. The visualization that is happening at the same time is intense. There's a whole bunch of brain activity that's going on past just reading the words on a page. It's imagining the other person in front of you. It's visualizing, if it's not like just a straight audio, it's visualizing what slides might be up on the screen, or what film is up on the screen, what's actually happening as you're talking about a specific thing. And am I just sort of like the words that are supporting the visuals, or am I actually taking a person by the hand and leading them through the story, kind of thing, together? So
mm,
there's lots of choices, actor choices, we call them.
and I think that's, I guess, where I was going at with your with asking you about if you're well traveled, is because people who are well traveled also tend to be able to see different perspectives as well. They're able to see other customs, see other way people think,
Yeah,
cultures.
I think it's an openness. I think it's an openness. And if you're lucky enough to be well traveled, amazing. And if you're not, then it's just an openness, even in your own small window of the world. But I do agree that there's something, you know, being able to travel is such an incredible classroom
Mm.
for social learning. It's great.
And to a certain extent, I think that gap, if you're not travel versus if you are, kind of, because we're working in a global economy and all of that, with technology like this, you're able to kind of conference with people across the world instantly. I think that's kind of bridged a little bit, but there's nothing like, having that firsthand experience in person and having exchanged with some
And
of
I
the
think we
other cultures.
crave that more and more, right? As so many of our interactions are online or on screen, we crave our in-person stuff more and more,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
our in-person experiences,
oh
firsthand
yeah,
experiences, as you said. Yeah.
yeah. You know what? We could probably go into that, but I do want to bring us back a little bit into one of your first experiences, and I think in the prep to this, it's kind of something we kind of saw both, because it happened to both of us at that company. Can you go back to that? Like, I guess that's a trigger point for your experience moving forward from that time. Could you?
Yeah, yeah. So I have found that the biggest triggers for me in my life have been what apparently on the surface or in the initial moment seemed to be a tragedy. It seemed to be a crisis, seemed to be something really, really negative.
Hmm.
And I don't know if we spoke, if I cued you into this. The first one that happened for me was actually I had worked my way up to being the supper hour weather woman on the 6 o'clock news in a major market, and the whole sports and weather departments, in a weird kind of a shakeup, got let go, and they changed the news department into being a current affairs department, only news, no weather, no sports. So this goal that I had been working up to for 7 years and then achieved for a couple of years and was just loving doing, was all of a sudden gone. And it was like, okay, that was my sort of I had been building a part-time career as a voiceover on the side. But that was my steady income. And like, what am I going to do now? And I had established myself in a city. I was about to be married, so I wasn't moving elsewhere.
Hmm.
And I kind of like had to pivot. I had to figure out, what am I going to do next? And fortunately, I had taken this 4 years to build up my voiceover career from part time to full time, and then became full time voiceover actor from that. That's what I launched into that. And interestingly, I became much more successful financially after having been sort of nudged into that direction, whether I wanted it or not. So that was the first kind of for me. That for me happened in the early 90s. For us, I think our incident happened in the 2010,
I'm going to say 2013,
13.
2012.
Okay, yeah. So I had been building this beautiful voiceover career, and my one of my specialties that I loved was working in online training or corporate training in finance and also in medical stuff. And that's where you and I were working in the medical pharma realm, which was so much fun. And the company that you and I worked that we met at basically expanded quickly, and it became, at that point for me, 40% of my income was related to that company. So again, it was like I found myself in a position where there were a lot of eggs that just kind of went into that basket, and then that basket got sold to a company in India, and I was invited to continue to work at 1/6 of my rate. And I was like, that's not going to work for me. So at that point, the technology had changed. And so I looked around and I was like, oh, you know what? The internet was happening. People, the price of being able to put a home studio, uh, putting that together in your own house had come down so it was accessible. In the past, it would have been like, I don't know, $200,000 to put a studio in your house. And now it was more like 10 or 20. So that's what I did. And replaned, rejigged, remarketed, learned anew how to be able to launch that. And again, once I made that pivot, acknowledging, not kind of going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Tragedy. Well, after a moment. And then
Yeah.
and then kind of like going, okay, let's assess, let's see where I can go. Again, I ended up being incredibly more financially successful after that nudge into the world than previously. So that was kind of cool for me.
You know what? I want to go back to the 90s with your
Yeah, sure.
experience there, and then that second experience afterwards. But with that first one, you had two things going on. You had your main gig,
Yeah.
if I'm understanding this correctly, and then you had the voiceover gig, which was kind of a side hustle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, that one began. So I had been doing. I'd always been as a DJ, as a TV weather woman, or lottery ball picker.
Oh,
um, Part of the gig was reading the commercials that the TV or radio station produced. So I had lots of experience reading commercials or performing commercials. And there was one other person who was one other female, and in the industry, in the thing, and we were kind of competing with each other, and so that pushed me to get better and better. And then I was one of the big guys, the radio station who'd been around forever, said, why aren't you doing this outside of the station? You could make a lot more money. You could actually get paid for doing this. And I went, oh, I didn't know that.
no.
So he kind of shone the flashlight, the pointer to me in that direction. And I started that while I was also doing my other voiceover stuff. So yeah, the first year that I did, it was like a really just a tiny little side hustle. The next year that doubled. The year after that, it doubled. And then by the time the fourth year came around and the weather woman job was pulled away from me, I had quadrupled my initial income from that side hustle. And I was ready to go alone and go ahead.
Would you have gone all in no matter what has happened with that weather girl type of job? I mean, say that wasn't happening, right? And they weren't going to go pure news, right? Would you have eventually gone to voiceover anyway? Or?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I have a colleague who that was her route. She decided to just stay weather woman, and she just recently retired, and that was her journey. For
Hmm.
me, I think I might have gotten, frankly, I think I might have gotten bored. It's it's very, very difficult to say the same thing and to be limited in the kinds of stories that you can tell. Like it was, I look at there's an advantage and disadvantage. So in telling the weather, it's a very limited sandbox. and a very limited story. So one of the things that I would challenge myself with was finding more and more interesting ways to be able to tell that story within that limited sandbox. I think that was a really good training ground to be able to then take that to other mediums in telling people's stories, because it's always a framework that you're working within and their story, and it's how can I again challenge myself to tell that story in the most delicious and most impactful way, kind of thing. So would I have stayed in doing, I don't know, maybe, but I'm really happy with the way my life turned out.
It worked out for you in the 90s for that. Now going back to 2012, 2013, when I guess the unspoken writing was on the wall for this company that we were both working on at.
Yeah.
Like what?
It was so sad because it was such a great team and we were producing such beautiful product and everything. But life happens and you're not in control of it. So like, what are you in control of?
Did you see it coming?
No, I was shocked. I was very surprised. You?
No, I didn't. And frankly, I think I was too inexperienced and too immature to recognize it. If only I knew then what I know now.
Yeah, yeah. That's the point of podcasts, though, right? Help each other share our information.
Yeah, see the
Yeah.
signs, prepare. But I mean, it worked out for me as well. What I wanted to ask you then is, earlier you alluded to like technology had changed and then certain things became a bit more affordable.
Yes.
And then you pivoted as well because you were motivated by this, I think, this takeover of the company we were working with. But how, and this is for the audience, because it's like, how do you do it? Like, how do you see opportunities like this? Like, what led to your eyes being open and then you being able to take action?
Well, I think I actually reached out to my people. I reached out to a bunch of different people who do what I do and who had been a budget cut victim somewhere or who had, had a shakedown. And it's like, and saw that they were still, they'd morphed into something else. So one guy in particular who's now the voice of CTV News. And I reached out to him. We'd worked together in radio ages ago. And he said, put a booth in your house. That was his, and he said, and start marketing yourself. And I was like, okay, well, I know how to market myself. But there were new ways, new avenues, marketplaces that you could like buy a membership to have access to jobs. And so I had to learn about that. I had to learn about the technology to put, how to set up a studio, how to make sure that the audio quality was perfect, and edit my own things. And which I'd done. I had started editing when it was like old fashioned tape and razor and
Oh my God.
that kind of thing. Yeah. So editing on a computer was much, much easier. But then there was also putting up my own website, learning how to do that, what content to put on it, learning about search engine optimization, which became a big part of my marketing, such that, it still is. I'm in the top 3 or 4 of the non-sponsored, non-paid for placements on several keywords that I go for. So this was like seeing what would work and what wouldn't work. There was a lot of throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks kind of things. I went to a DevLearn conference with 7 other voiceover actors. We got a booth. We marketed our services as a consortium. I made a website for us to be able to try and work that. It did not go well. I don't know how many of us, but I got one client from there that out of 3,000 potential possibilities. But that one client ended up paying for my investment over the years. And they're one of the people that I continue to work with and love. And we've got a great relationship with. I did really well with like face-to-face marketing. I don't do so well with mass email marketing. I find it annoying myself. So I don't like to do it. I'd rather focus on what I said, search engine search engine optimization, which is basically, here's my store. If you come into my store, oh, great. While you're here, check this out. While you're here, check that out. As opposed to standing at my storefront and going, come on in, with a big megaphone, going, come in, come in. As I, while you're here is more my strategy kind of thing. And to that end, also, the other thing that was definitely in my control was being able to just become better and better as a storyteller. So I would, every year, I always did this, but I became more intentional about it. I always would take a look at the money that I made, and I would set aside a certain amount for marketing, a certain amount for craft, I call it, or, just becoming better at what I do, and a certain amount for equipment or technology, et cetera, et cetera, and continually reinvested in that. And for the storytelling aspect, it would be going to conferences, taking lessons, doing workshops, studying with certain people. I've studied with some amazing people who Hollywood A-listers work with, which is really, really great. But then taking their method for film or for television and applying it to my love, which is audio story, telling audio stories, and that audio component of storytelling. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
a lot.
I guess, like, you know what, because in my context, I'm working for a small business that it's been around for a long time, but it stayed in 2000, and all of a sudden it's 2024, and now we have to kind of do the marketing and figure out how to sell again, how to make the product relevant. And one of the things that resonated with me was you jumped onto SEO. You know, there are many channels for marketing,
Yes.
and you picked the one I think that now in retrospect makes sense. But somehow you knew. How did you know to use that channel? Did you
Well,
try the other ones and they failed, or?
so, yes, I was trying everything. Like I say, spaghetti on the wall. I hired a student, a university student, for a whole summer, and we did Instagram campaigns. And I spent all that money, and it flopped. Nothing. Spent money. I basically spent money, and the things that seemed to that I loved to do was a combination of that. It was what I loved to do, what I felt was a good fit for me, and what I eventually ended up getting results from was search engine optimization. So I love to write as like storytelling. Stories is my big thing. So telling the stories and writing the stories. So I built out my website from, an initial one page to, I think I've got, I don't know, 600 or 700 pages on there. A lot of it having to do with blog posts, but being a kind of sitting there and evaluating every week or month or annually too. How can I be of service more, better? What else can I offer the people who might land on my site? What else can I do for them? How can I entertain them? How can I inform them? How can I make them feel like, oh, this person actually is a really good resource for XYZ? And so that's sort of.
And how did you arrive at that? Did you have sounding boards? Did
Oh
you?
yeah, I hired a really horrible company at first and lost a lot of money. Fortunately, I was smart. I used my Visa card for their services, so their service was really, really bad. So I was able to get like a few months back of that, which was, I don't know if Visa still has that policy, but it was like the service was really poor, and so I was able to get some of that investment back. And then I, reached out to my colleagues again. And fortunately, in my industry, the voiceover community is pretty tight in that it's like sort of like the concept of all boats, a rising tide rises all boats, is very, very prevalent. And so it's like, you know, anybody got any recommendations for ABC? And we'll jump in and say, oh, well, this person worked really well for me. And you might want to give them a call. So I found someone who has become one of the dearest friends of my life, kind of thing. And he happened to have be a web design and SEO expert. And he taught me, and I hired him. So it was sort of a collaboration over the years.
And do you do a lot of this yourself now, or do you hire
It
freelancers, or?
depends. So as soon as 5 years into having my own business, I all of a sudden was insanely busy. which was really nice. But it was also not good for work-life balance. I was working 80-hour weeks, and that was not sustainable. And so then I started to subcontract. And and my husband, who had his own business doing recycling for a while, and then he worked for another company for a while. At this particular point, I said, I'm kind of drowning. And I had gone from like 20 different clients that I worked with 2 or 3 different payment methods to over 500 with 15 different payment methods. And and I
Oh,
said, can you come and help with that part of the business, please? Can you take that over? Can you do my taxes on a quarterly basis? Can you do? And so he started taking over the business management of it. That's all his docket now. And at the same time, I hired a couple of different people. And then I settled on one who became my main audio editor. I still have a couple of backups, but he's my main audio editor. We work together on a weekly basis, daily sometimes, and he edits all my files for me, so I don't have to do that. I also then subcontracted a lot of the blog post writing and the other writing that I was doing on my website, again because I was just so busy. So I would write the thesis, the main 3 or 4 points, and then send it out to a ghostwriter, and then get it back, and edit and fancy it up and make sure, add my own little sparkle to it before I'd publish. Yeah, so that's how I managed that one. And it's great because for me, then it means that I can focus on what I do best, which is narrating.
like you're how do I put this? After hearing this, I think like voiceover is like 1% of what you do. It almost that's what it looks
My
like. I mean,
favorite part. It's my favorite percent.
it's your favorite. It's because I think at least since the time that you and I started, we're working together, maybe 12, 13 years ago, that was what I knew you as. But now there's this whole like, there's a wizard behind the curtain, definitely. And I think you're pulling a lot of the levers.
Many
um,
as I can, right?
yeah,
Do
yeah.
what you're in. Yeah.
So I do. I guess one of my friends calls it the entrepreneur, the entrepreneurial spirit, the whatever that is, that mindset. And entrepreneurs, I know they deal with a lot of hills and valleys in their journey, for sure. Was there a point where can you speak to one of the valleys that you experienced in your journey along the entrepreneurial route right afterwards?
I've got 2 possibilities to take this in. One is where one is what I'm currently dealing with, and the other one is through COVID. It became I was in COVID. People were either extremely busy to the nth degree, or didn't have anything to do at all. And I was one of the people who was extremely busy. I'd set everything. I was fortunate that I'd set everything up, so I was perfectly poised to be able to take on a lot of work. And people stopped videotaping because that requires a lot of people gathering together to create stuff. So what continued during that and rolled right after the initial shutdown was animation, stock video, and voiceover. So that's how people were continuing to get their messages out there. And so I was fortunate that I was in that position. Interestingly, the trough that I'm going to talk about was the burnout that I experienced. And I never thought I would burn out doing something that I loved. And
Mm.
I did. And so then it was like, okay, because basically it was like getting to the point where what I loved was no longer feeling as scintillating, as delicious, as life affirming. And it was like, I can't do justice to the work that my clients are asking me to do if I am going down this trajectory. So then I had to really take a step back and look at what was important to me. And I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. And there was a lot. It was really nice. But then I had to kind of go, well, that's not necessarily the end goal. The end goal for me is being able to continue to tell beautiful stories on behalf of other people and make connections between this guy who's got something that they want to say, hey, this is so cool. And this guy over here who's saying, geez, if only I had this in my life would be great. And I can go, hey guys, guess, from here, and make that connection. That's sort of how I see myself, as that bridge. And so then it's like, it's like the old oxygen mask thing, right? If you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself, how can you're going to expire before you can do anything else. So I needed to figure out how to not expire and to rejuvenate myself. And so then that was a lot of kind of like, because I had been very financially driven for a long time. And so it was sort of like reassessing and saying, well, what's really important to me? And relationships are really important to me, and person to person relationships as well, which I kind of like foregone, all of us had during COVID. And being physical and healthy is really important to me. And taking time for exploration, meditation, just being well balanced, eating good food, getting enough sleep, all of that stuff. Yeah. And then the second place I could have gone on this was talking about the current bugaboo, whatever you want to call it, that is facing so many people in creative industries. And I'm not going to say just creative industries, in all industries, because there's creativity in every industry. There's creativity in finding tax, strategies. There's creativity in being in research, in scientific research. There's creativity in everything. And so I'm not just limiting this to, the arts kind of thing, because I think there's art in everything. But, artificial intelligence, it's a big one. And, on the one hand, we want to be able to do things, the little niggly things, like let's use it for that. On the other hand, there's a lot of opportunities that AI developers are seeing to come in and take the positions of people like me, are voiceover artists, graphic designers, writers, all kinds of, people in the videographers. So it's like a lot of people in my industry are kind of like, what's going to happen? And I think that I'm actually involved in a committee that is advising on regulation for that. And we're looking at things like, how there's like organic certified or fair trade certified. Maybe there should be human certified. That would be an interesting thing. Just so people know that they have a choice. There could be things like, I think, with the whole uncanny valley theory, there is an ick factor for us if we don't know that it's a machine. Right now, we kind of still know it's a machine. It's like, oh, it's a machine. But if you don't know it's a machine that's talking to you, there's this weird kind of like, the closer it gets to being like a human, the more we kind of go, I don't like that. So that's a possibility. But interestingly, I think I think it will end up being something that a lot of people will use when they don't have high value to connection. If it's an e-learning company, for example, that really doesn't care whether or not the key performance indicators are being met for this, but it's just something that they've got to roll out, or for compliance, or for government regulations, or something like that, then they'll probably go with an AI. Whereas if it's something that they really need their people to understand this, because if they don't, they are going to lose millions of dollars, they're going to hire a human. And I think that's going to be this sort of, my prediction is that's what's going to happen in all of the stuff. Plus, then there's the whole consideration of how much energy it takes. They say the current AI, all the platforms that are being in development and in use right now, are taking as much energy as a small country. We can't afford that, or we need to make choices. And I don't know how that's going to happen, or how that's going to be regulated, if regulated. I don't know. But yeah, so that's my kind of like how to move forward with this. And what I'm doing is taking lessons from what I've done in the past, seeing where I can pivot, making sure I have a good work-life balance, looking at what my goals really are, and continuing to stay on top of any technology or craft. There's been a trend. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a big trend for stories to be told in extremely authentic, real person, conversational ways, right? It used to be, this week we're going to be talking about this. It's like nobody wants to hear that anymore, right? So again, it's interest. It's a set of skills to be able to do that with somebody else's words, with somebody else's script. So I'm continuing to play and enjoy and work on that as well. We'll see what happens.
You're still in the thrill of the hunt. Like you still got a
Yeah.
lot going.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, I never thought, I thought going into this, I thought, there are restrictions for females in the industry.
Hmm.
And I thought that I was going to be limited by age. And fortunately, you know, I still sound like not my actual physical age, which is kind of cool. So I get a lot of work because there's certain stigma if you say, well, I am this age, and people go, really, you don't look that age, or you don't sound that age, as if it's like a bad thing, which is really kind of sad because we don't have that same perception with men. Men who reach a certain age, they're the voice of experience, they're the voice of wisdom, they're very, very, very powerful. And women, it's a different situation, it's a different story. So yeah, I'm just continuing to ride it as long as I can and see what happens.
I think your time will end when you choose it.
I
That's
hope so. Thank you, Mark. I'll take that.
I mean, no one can control luck, right? But I think, like every other entrepreneur that I've talked to, you have that special. Sometimes it's fight. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like a spider sense that comes, and you kind of see it before it's actually too late. So just hearing you talk, I know that you'll probably end up choosing when you exit as opposed to being told you have to exit. So that's a good thing. It's a very good thing on your own terms.
Appreciate that. I hope so too. Yeah.
Short of luck, though. I mean, it's Lord knows I know. I mean, I work for a small business as well that has its share of bad luck and good luck. So I know
Yeah.
I know what that does. And a testament to that business is that they don't quit, or we don't quit. Like it's just we keep going until because we have a vision. Like we
That's
want
it.
to we want to be the biggest producer of the product that we produce, and we want to grow across not just Montreal, Canada, US, we want everything, and it's that thing that really, I can't stop now. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I'll
Yeah.
change. What do I need to change? What do I need to transform or adapt?
Right. And that's the whole thing. It's like how do you life's gonna throw you curveballs. Life's gonna smash you down. How do you continue? How do you keep going? How do you keep moving forward? And sometimes to move forward, you need to move back a little bit and then move forward again in a different direction. And it's all part of the process, and it's exciting and it's fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you if you have any overarching advice from the experiences you've shared today, what would it be?
Um, oh, wow. So much. I think
Thank
that so much. Yeah. I think one of the keys for me, and I guess it's because it's my focus, is communication and relationships. So some of the young people that I work with, one of their big problems is really crappy communication. Like, someone will send them an email and they won't get back with them for 3 or 4 days. And it's like, no, 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 no. You have to be able to say, just got your email. I'm busy with something else. I'll get back to you this afternoon. People have to know that you're in the loop, or, they will move on and look to somebody else. Open communication, honest communication. If you don't know the answer, say, I'll find it out for you, or I would refer you to somebody else. And so to that end, it's communication and relationships. It's like, look at us, it's like we worked together for a while and we really enjoyed working with each other. And, we stayed in touch kind of thing, and then got back into touch for this. And it's, we like to work. When we have a good experience with someone, we like to work with the people that we know and trust. And I think that your reputation is, I mean, someone will say it's your brand, it's your thing, it's who you are. So I think that overall communication and maintaining good relationships um, will help you be able to pivot, will help you to be able to rise over. We're all creating services or products or whatever it is that we're doing to be able to help each other in our specific areas of expertise. And we can't do it alone. We work best when we work together. So yeah, I guess that's what would be my advice.
Amen. Amen. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh my God. I could keep talking to you.
Oh,
uh, one last thing I wanted to ask you before we close off the podcast, Kim, is if someone is compelled by your story and is compelled to reach out to you, how do they reach you?
my website is the best way. It's kimhandysidesvoiceover.com. My email address is on there, my cell phone, although I prefer email. Email's best. But yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anybody about this or anything that we touched on today. It'd be great.
Thank you very much, Kim. It's so refreshing to have this kind of conversation with you after all these years. To be honest, I'm actually kind of inspired by what you said today.
Oh, I'm so glad.
It really touched me today. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's wonderful. You've just made my day. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah,
Great.
that's what we want to do, to be able to help each other and rise the boats, right?
Absolutely. We rise together.
That's it. Exactly.
So on that note, I wish everyone a wonderful day and seize it. It's yours for the taking. Take care. Bye. Hey, thank you very much. If you made it this far to the end of the podcast, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're just starting out, so it would help if I could just ask one more thing of you. Please subscribe to this channel and share the podcast, share the episode on any platform you can. It would mean a lot to me and it would help us a lot. Thank you.